The F-250 sat gleaming in the driveway, but the deal felt off-kilter from the start.
George glanced at the key fob, then at Raymond. Something in the old man's smile didn't reach his eyes.
Raymond reached for the envelope of cash. The moment George pulled it from his jacket pocket, on the hood, the title lay flat. Raymond scrawled a signature that didn't match the registered name.
He'd seen training transfer documents forged with more care. This signature was a red flag waving in a hurricane.
On the drive, George kept glancing at the title on the passenger seat. The seller's name was Raymond, but the owner column said Jacob Reeves.
Why would a man sign over a truck he didn't own? His stomach tightened.
He pulled into his garage, killed the engine, and sat in the sudden quiet. The title lay on the bench seat beside him.
22 years in uniform had taught him to trust his gut. His gut was screaming. Whatever this was, he wasn't letting it slide. Not when a soldier's name was on the line.
George stepped out of the truck, grabbed a flashlight and a notepad, and walked to the driver's door jamb.
He copied the VIN digit by digit, his hands steady but his heart pounding against his ribs.
In his study, he logged into a vehicle records database. The screen refreshed, and his breath caught.
Registered to Jacob Reeves, active duty Army, stationed overseas. The truck wasn't Raymond's to sell.
He didn't hesitate. He picked up the landline and dialed the JAG office at Fort Carson.
My name is George Hastings, retired Air Force. I need to report a possible SS Gray violation involving a deployed soldier's vehicle.
Captain Harris pulled up a fresh case file on her computer and listened intently, her pen hovering over a legal pad.
You are sure the title was signed by a Raymond, but the owner is Jacob Reeves. I'll need you to secure that truck immediately.
It's already in my garage. Nobody's touching it but me. What else do you need?
Harris noted the details, flagged the case as urgent, and promised to contact Jacob's command within the hour. The truck was now both evidence and a protected asset, 5,000 miles from his driveway. Sergeant Jacob Reeves sat on his cot with a thin airmail letter in his hands.
His sister's handwriting was hurried, the words blurry from the recycled paper. Dad sold your truck, said you needed the money.
In Raymond's version of events, Jacob had called home, desperate for cash to cover some imaginary emergency. The family had nodded along.
He'd never asked for a dime. The truck was paid off, every bolt and gasket bought with his own deployment pay.
He grabbed the satellite phone in the comms tent, his breath fogging the mouthpiece as he dialed his father's number.
The line rang 6 times, then dropped. No voicemail, no callback, just static and the echo of his own pulse.
Back in his bunk, he pulled a worn photo from his pocket. The F-250 on the day he'd driven it off the lot.
That truck was supposed to be the first thing he saw when he got home. The anchor, waiting in his father's driveway.
On the wall, a small calendar counted down his days left in theater. Under it, the photo of his truck was tacked up, now a mocking reminder.
He sat there, 3 months into his tour, and wondered how his own father could strip him of everything while he was wearing the uniform.
Bills covered the kitchen table. Raymond stared at the overdue sums, then at the driveway.
Jacob's F-250, paid off and gleaming. It wasn't just a truck anymore, it was a solution.
He pulled the title from the glove box, then an old birthday card. Jacob's signature stared back at him.
Borrowing. That's all it was. Jacob would understand once Raymond explained everything.
He practiced the strokes 3 times, then forged the release line. The pen trembled only slightly.
The truck was worth $38,000, more than enough to clear every debt.
He called his daughter, voice steady. Your brother needed cash. Had to sell the truck. She never doubted him.
Even the neighbor who saw the buyer just nodded. The story held. Raymond almost believed it himself.
At the ATM, the cash disappeared into the machine. Credit card 0, loan 0, then the panic hit.
A voicemail from a neighbor. A man was writing down the VIN. Raymond's blood turned to ice.
Harris placed the forged title under a magnifying lamp. Beside it, she laid Jacob's signature card from his enlistment file. The slant, the loop of the J, nothing matched.
This wasn't even a good forgery. The pressure alone screamed hesitation.
I ran the VIN. Active duty, stationed at Forward Operating Base Sentinel. I knew the seller had no right to that truck.
She pulled the original title from the DMV database. Next to it, she placed Jacob's deployment orders, dates overlapping with the forged sale.
Raymond forged the release, while his son was overseas. Classic SCRA violation.
She patched through to the forward command post. The major listened, his expression hardening, then promised to get Jacob on the line. The major assured her that Jacob would be on the phone soon, adding that the soldier had just learned of the sale. Harris updated George, promising to keep him in the loop. The case file was thickening into a felony charge.
Just tell me when he gets his truck back. I'll keep it warm for him.
Jacob was summoned to the command post. The major's face was unreadable. He'd braced for bad news, but the words that came out didn't make sense. Jag, a buyer named George.
His mind raced. Someone had called the lawyers over his truck.
The major handed him a secured phone. Captain Harris was on the other end.
Sergeant Reeves, your 2022 F-250 has been located and secured. The buyer, a retired Air Force Master Sergeant, alerted us to the forged title.
A stranger. A veteran. He couldn't wrap his head around it.
Under the SCRA, we are pursuing felony charges against your father. The truck will be returned to you.
I don't know what to say. My own father. And this George. He did this.
His voice broke, but for the first time in days, his chest didn't feel hollow.
Yes. He refused any payment. Said a soldier shouldn't come home to an empty driveway.
The two JAG investigators sat across from Raymond in his living room, their badges glinting under the lamp.
He'd prepared for this. Deny everything. Make them prove it.
Mr. Reeves, we have the forged title, the bank deposit, and your son's deployment records. The signature is not his.
Jacob told me I could sell it. He needed money. We had a verbal agreement.
We have Jacob's statement. He never authorized the sale. Under the SCRA, this is a felony.
The room tilted. Jacob was talking to them.
You will sign this notification. Your bank account has been flagged, and any attempt to move assets will be additional charges.
His hand trembled as he took the pen. The ink dried and the JAG investigators stood.
Felony. The word echoed. He'd only wanted to pay the bills.
Raymond sat alone, the notification on the table. His son was across the ocean, and the law had arrived. In the garage, George ran a microfiber cloth along the F-250's hood with the care of a museum curator.
61 years old, retired. And now I am a mechanic for a truck I don't own.
He gently pulled the tarp back over the truck, tucking the edges. It wasn't just evidence, it was a promise.
A soldier's first look home shouldn't be an empty space. Not on my watch.
The phone on the workbench rang. Jacob's commanding officer, Major Tran. George straightened.
Hastings. Yes, sir. She's resting under my roof, waiting for Sergeant Reeves.
The major offered compensation. George's reply was immediate.
No, sir, not a cent. Just make sure the law does its job. That's all the payment I need.
JAG issued a custodial order. The truck was officially evidence. George was now its legal guardian.
Guardian of a soldier's truck. Best job he'd had in years.
A small video camera on a tripod. Jacob sat before it, his hands gripping his knees.
He'd never spoken against his father. Not in a way that mattered.
He cleared his throat and began, his voice steadier than he expected.
I bought that truck with my first deployment paycheck. It was supposed to be my anchor when I came home. My father forged my signature on the title and sold it while I was deployed. He used my deployment as a shield. I am not asking for leniency.
Captain Harris watched the deposition on her computer, her pen motionless.
This wasn't just a forgery. It was a son betraying his father's uniform.
She added the file to the case. The felony charges now carried the victim's own words.
He'd done his duty. Now, the law would do the rest. For the truck, and for every soldier who came after.
In his living room, Raymond gripped the phone, scrolling for his daughter's number.
She always took his side. She'd make Jacob drop this nonsense. They're trying to put me in prison. Your brother won't even answer my calls. You have to talk to him.
Across the ocean, Jacob's satellite phone buzzed with his sister's call.
He forged my signature. Sold my truck for $38,000 while I was wearing this uniform. He lied to everyone.
His sister's voice cracked. She'd believed Raymond's story, but Jacob's pain was undeniable.
Even their mother had refused to help Raymond. The excuses were wearing thin after decades.
Raymond's angry texts flooded in. Jacob forwarded them to Jag without reading a single one. He blocked his father's number, then sat in the quiet of the tent.
The law would have to be enough. He'd already done his part.
Inside a small Jag conference room, Captain Harris laid the charging document before the magistrate.
Forgery and SCRA violation, clear evidence. I recommend immediate charges and custodial arrest.
2 MPs in dress uniform knocked. Raymond opened the door, and his expression shattered.
Neighbors were already watching. The shame was a physical blow.
In the holding cell, his mugshot was taken. Front, side. His signature was now on a booking sheet. A JAG file stamped United States v. Raymond Reeves landed on Harris's desk. The truck title was officially voided.
Sergeant Reeves, the title is voided. The vehicle is yours again. We'll arrange safe transport once you are stateside.
It's really mine again. And George, he's still holding it.
In his garage, George received the news. He gently patted the tarp. Not long now, girl. Raymond spent the night behind bars. By morning, the story of the deployed soldier's truck was already spreading through the base. An official JAG notice arrived in the mail. The truck was legally his again. The name George Hastings was circled in his mind.
He had to thank the man who'd guarded his anchor. A phone call wasn't enough.
By flashlight, pen moving, he wrote 3 pages. The words were rough, honest.
I never met you, but you treated my truck like a brother in arms. I can't repay that.
The letter arrived at George's farm. He opened it on the porch, morning coffee steaming.
You saw a soldier's name, and you didn't look away. You stood up when my own father folded.
George's hand shook. He set the letter down and wiped his eyes. He folded it carefully, then walked to the garage. Lifting the tarp, he tucked the envelope into the glove box.
That letter stays with the truck. Part of her history now.
2 men, thousands of miles apart, connected by a single act of vigilance. The courtroom was small and sterile. Raymond sat at the defendant's table, his posture stiff with defiance.
He could beat this. No proof he intended harm. Just a paperwork mix-up.
Captain Harris stood, tablet in hand, and addressed the judge. The screen flickered on. Jacob's tired eyes filled the room. His voice was steady. Raymond's expression shattered. He stared at his own lap, unable to look at the screen.
His son. His uniform. Speaking like that, for the record.
His public defender leaned in. A whispered exchange. Then Raymond rose.
Guilty. I plead guilty.
The judge set sentencing for 30 days out. Jacob, watching from a remote terminal, let out a long breath. Raymond didn't look at anyone. For the first time, he seemed less like a schemer and more like a man who had lost everything. Weeks later, another letter arrived. This time, from his mother. The words dripped with guilt.
She begged him to show mercy, to let Raymond walk with just a fine. He's your father.
He grabbed the satellite phone, dialed Harris. His voice was raw.
Sergeant, this SCRA isn't just for you. It's for every soldier who can't be here to protect their assets. If we go soft now, we send a message that deployed troops are easy targets. I need your statement on what you want.
Mercy for his father meant weakness for every other soldier. He wouldn't let that happen.
He wrote an official statement, pen pressing hard. No deal. Full restitution. Public acknowledgement of the forgery.
Captain, tell the judge I'm asking for the maximum. He used my deployment as a weapon. That can't go unanswered.
Harris added the statement to the file. The plea deal was off the table.
His father would pay for the miles on that odometer, for the trust shattered. Justice, not revenge.
Sentencing day. The courtroom benches were full. Raymond sat beside his public defender, his suit ill-fitting. The judge reviewed the SCRA violation and forgery, her voice sharp as a blade. This isn't just theft, it's a betrayal of service. Raymond's attorney read a prepared statement of remorse, but the words felt hollow.
The victim asks for no leniency. His father used his deployment as a weapon. He requests full restitution and permanent bar. Harris's voice didn't waver.
Even now, his son wouldn't stop. The words were a hammer to his chest.
The judge delivered the sentence: 11 months suspended, 200 hours community service, $4,200 restitution for mileage, permanently barred from Jacob's accounts. On the remote terminal, Jacob watched the screen. No joy, just a long exhale.
11 months, suspended. The words didn't make sense. Then the bailiff touched his arm.
Raymond's legs buckled. The bailiff steadied him, but his sobs echoed in the silent room. The judge struck the gavel. The order was final. Raymond was led out, his head hanging, the door clanging shut behind him. 2 weeks after the gavel fell, Jacob's taxi rolled to a stop across from the VFW. The sign flickered against the twilight. Through the dusty window, a silver shape resolved. The hood, the grille, his F-250.
His breath fogged the glass. The truck looked untouched, almost sacred.
Inside the hall, silence. Folded chairs. A small podium draped with a flag. The man beside the truck wore a veteran cap pulled low. George Hastings. The name he'd written a dozen times.
His legs were stone. The door handle might as well have been a grenade pin.
Outside, the streetlights buzzed on. The town seemed to wait. He pushed the door open. Cold air, pine and diesel. George turned. Their eyes met across 20 yards of asphalt. For a long moment, neither moved. The truck between them, a silent witness to everything that had led here. Jacob walked forward, his shadow stretching long across the asphalt. George lifted a rigid salute, then broke into a grin.
Welcome home, Sergeant. Your truck's been waiting right here for you.
Inside the hall, a handful of veterans rose from their chairs. The applause was rough and honest.
This truck was never mine. It was always yours, Sergeant. I just kept the engine warm.
He placed the keys in Jacob's open palm. Jacob's fingers closed around them, and his shoulders shook once.
I wrote you 3 pages, and it still wasn't enough. You didn't just save my truck, you saved my faith in the uniform.
From his pocket, Jacob drew a unit coin. He pressed it into George's palm and pinned it to his lapel.
Battle buddies. That's what we are now.
Someone slid 2 beers across the bar. The foam settled as the men raised their glasses.
To the truck.
Jacob slid into the driver's seat. The leather was cool, the dashboard familiar. George climbed in beside him.
300 miles. That engine hadn't turned. It purred like it was waiting for him.
Changed the oil twice. Rotated the tires. She's been ready for you since the day I called Jag.
They pulled into a roadside diner. Neon buzzed overhead. Jacob ordered 2 slices of apple pie, coffee for George.
My own son almost lost everything while deployed. A landlord tried to seize his storage unit. I couldn't stop it in time.
The confession hung in the air. Jacob set down his fork.
When I saw that title, I wasn't just looking at your truck. I was looking at my son's.
Justice wasn't abstract. It was a father trying to fix a wrong he couldn't undo. You didn't just save my truck, you honored your son. Thank you, George.
George nodded once, his throat tight. Outside, the F-250 waited, headlights cutting the night. On a dusty highway shoulder, Raymond Reeves wore an orange vest, a trash grabber in his hand.
The sun bore down. Every passerby knew his name from the article. The shame was suffocating.
The local paper ran a photo. Local man sentenced for scraw fraud against deployed son. The online comments were brutal. Jacob sat in his truck, the iPhone showing the article. He read it twice.
No satisfaction. Just a hollow ache that his father chose this. That he'd never know the man, George became.
He called his attorney. The request was simple but final.
Draft a notice. I want no further contact. He's barred from my accounts, my life. Make it legal and permanent.
The letter arrived on a Thursday. Raymond's hands trembled as he opened it in the silent house.
Jacob had finally closed the door. Forever. The house felt like a prison.
Raymond set the letter aside. Outside, the driveway stayed empty. He was alone with the consequences. A court-ordered check for $4,200 arrived in Jacob's mailbox. He stared at it for a long moment.
The money wasn't compensation. It was a reminder of miles he never drove, so he made a decision.
He endorsed the check, wrote another for half the amount, and mailed it to the service members' legal defense fund. A note inside for the next soldier. That evening, at their usual diner, Jacob slid the donation receipt across the table to George.
Half of it. You sure?
My truck's already home. Some other soldiers might not be yet.
That's a hell of a way to close the loop.
A week later, a padded envelope arrived at George's farm. Inside, a framed certificate from the JAG office, signed by Captain Harris. George hung it in his garage, beside the original key to the F-250 that he'd kept as a memento. He stepped back, satisfied.
The wall told a story now. A truck, a soldier, and a debt that didn't need collecting.
The first Friday of every month, the F-250 parked in its usual spot outside the diner. Jacob kept a calendar in the glove box. Each month, he'd mark it with a tiny truck doodle.
You know the waitress has our orders memorized? She doesn't even ask anymore.
Pie and coffee, extra cream. She's earned her tip.
One evening, Jacob scribbled on a napkin and slid it over. It read, "I owe you one dinner."
He'd tear up if he wasn't in public, but he just pocketed the napkin.
Jacob's phone hummed with the same reminder every month. Dinner with George, 1800 VFW.
You ever going to let me pay for one of these?
Nope. You took care of my truck. I take care of dinner. That's the deal.
They settled into the booth, the same as always. Outside, the F-250 gleamed under the streetlights. 3 years after the gavel, Jacob's phone glowed in the evening light. The same reminder, dinner with George, 1800 VFW. George was already in his recliner, the framed photo of their first VFW handshake resting on his knee. He smiled at it, then stood. The F-250 rolled past the old diner, then turned toward the VFW. The bumper sticker had faded only a little. Inside the VFW, years had softened the edges but not the ritual. George already had 2 beers waiting.
To the truck.
And to the man who brought it home.
They drank, and the silence between them was full of miles traveled together. Later, they stepped outside. The truck sat under a street lamp, a silent guardian of everything they'd built. Jacob never spoke to his father again. But every month, he bought George dinner. The truck outlasted the betrayal. The F-250 drove into the setting sun, its engine humming the same steady note. A promise kept, a debt paid.